Greetings, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. This is our end of days, and that's DAZ. As usual, just one continuous stream of filming, no editing. Look what I found, you guys. I've actually collected quite a bit of these. I've only successfully dried one of them so far. The other ones are unfortunately failed attempts. They either get rotten or squished or other stuff happens. But anyway, yeah, I guess related to this, right? It's maybe kind of odd to collect these things. I wasn't born on the islands. Talking about Hawaii, I was actually born on the mainland. And guess what? These don't exist on the mainland. So I see them as super beautiful, super rare. And being able to collect them and dry them, I think is super cool for me. And, we might get interrupted here, but maybe not. And like I said, just one continuous stream. I'm going to keep filming no matter what, if I can. As you can tell, I'm at my storage unit. And it's raining outside right now. And so I wanted to make a quick film for today before the library closes, because that's my access point to be able to download stuff, or upload stuff, I should say. So, been munching on stuff. I got to practice my my baton twirling today. I love it, guys. It's so much fun. I didn't really get a chance to film it though. I can kind of give like a limited filming area of it, but unfortunately, like if I'm playing music and I'm really getting into it, I need like a whole area to be able to film. And so I'm experimenting with stuff. Like I'm a one-man team at this point, so hoorah, right? So today's subject is kind of on that level where it's just being one person. I think in many cases we get used to group dynamics, and I'm not knocking groups at all. If anything, humanity's been able to build as much as it can through group dynamics. But I'm fully convinced, and I would say divinely led, to be an example and to show that group dynamics can exist while exalting the individual. And that is the only way to truly evolve, I would say, past the point that we have. Otherwise, it's like this tyrannous hive mind mentality is kind of what it is. And usually what ends up happening is the current dynamic of the earth playing in, basically, societally speaking at least, where the most cut off from source, the most cut off from God, will become the head of that group social dynamic, because they're essentially the most aggressive. They have no problem harming other people. They have no problem doing things that other people would basically just choose not to do. And because of that numbness, I'm going to call it for what it is, because of that numbness of heart, they are able to function in a way where it makes things worse, you guys. It's like, this is the best thing for me to say. And they masquerade that behind, oh, well, it's keeping order of things. If I wasn't doing this, things would devolve. And it's because of projection, you guys. They see themselves just like we all do, all right? So it's, I'm not knocking them for this part at all. I'm not knocking anybody, to be honest. But we see in the world ourselves. And so projection in this case is, rather than being more aligned with truth and being accustomed or in the habit of seeing truth, which sometimes makes us uncomfortable, they project that outward. And so rather than see themselves as this aggressive, nasty, petty individual, they project it outward, and then they make the world like that. And so in some cases, I would say for the ones that I'm talking about, they they even take that on, saying like, well, I'll be the most aggressive, I'll be the most of this, I'll be the most conniving, stab in the backish, I'll be the most deceitful, because that's how the world is, that's how everything is. And that's a long explanation there, because these individuals probably grew up in family dynamics, cultures, religious environments where that was the status quo. They did see that. And so it's not like these people are coming up to this conclusion on their own. This is something that they were born into, like the nurture versus nature part. At the same time, there is some kind of soul dynamic, because, for example, I'm an example of this. No matter what we're born into, we can walk away from it. All right. This is the power of one. All right. This is the power of an individual, where we can walk away from group dynamics. We can basically go against the flow of societal programming. All right. Of group programming, whatever the group happens to be. For me personally, most recently, because I like in society at large, I probably identified with a lot of the rebellious homeless structure that was initial, because I hated society, you guys. I saw that society was basically rigged. I didn't like that idea. I have a little bit of a different view nowadays, and I always felt kind of middle of the road, but definitely recently I've seen how even being in scarcity, like extreme scarcity, you guys, there's individuals that are creating this for themselves. Like through their patterning, through how they see the world, they validate the scarcity that they have in their lives by acting in a certain way, by perceiving the world in a certain way. And then in doing so, it creates this feedback loop. All right. And just in a nutshell, like if I have people, I doubt it, but if there's people from this, the local homeless population here in Kapolei, that I've interacted with before, it's me walking away, me isolating, me choosing not to engage in your circles, is not a slam against you guys. All right. It really isn't. With that said, the best way for me to put this is I can help. All right. But part of it is trusting me. Part of it is listening to what I have to say. And what I experienced was I was just dismissed. It was just basically outright dismissal. And so I'm just, okay, you got it. I'll show you. But guess what? You can't come with me now. I was willing to have us build up together. But if you don't want to come with me, if you want to be stuck in that scarcity mindset, if you're not willing to challenge yourself, if you're not willing to challenge that mindset, then you're going to stay exactly where you are. And of course, you at this point, I'm referencing to, like I just said, the homeless population that I've was attempted to be absorbed into, I guess is the best way for me to say it. And that's a whole other subject for another thing. I feel like there was this collective mind, this collective unconscious, if you will, that was trying to absorb me into this, that has absorbed some of these individuals. And I pray, like seriously, I pray that each one of these individuals finds their freedom. But it starts from within. It's something that you have to want. And then when you want it and you're willing to pursue it, at least for me, I had to get to a point where I would rather die than live inauthentically, than live under the boot of some kind of tyrannous group dynamic. All right. And just being me, I saw it as even the people who are at the head of that, they're under the boot of their own inner tyrant. All right. Like their just inner tyrant is probably a little bit louder than all the other people's inner tyrants, which is why they end up being the head of that kind of dynamic. And it's poisonous. If you ask me, it's toxic. All right. It's something that is not good for the soul, you guys. Not good for the soul at all. Like I said, just one continuous stream. I have stuff falling down in my, what is it called? Storage unit here. What are we at for time? Yeah, maybe we should keep it like 10 minutes. But I just kind of wanted to explain that. No love lost, really. At the same time, it's like this dynamic where it's just like, all right, if you can't come with me, you're going to watch me, and then you're going to see that it can't happen, and then it gives you the choice. All right, you can say, well, he did have something. Maybe I should follow his example. Maybe I should listen to some of his words. Uh, and if not, then you can go in the other direction. You can go deeper into that scarcity mindset. He is just lucky. Oh, he was just born with something that I wasn't, which is all bullshit, man. All right, if I'm going to be completely honest, anybody can do what I'm doing. All right. If anything, I feel very. There's a saying where the jack of all trades, right? And I kind of feel like that. I'm a little bit good at everything. I'm not really super good at anything in particular. All right, except I got to a point where I was just determined, where it was just like, okay, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm just not going to give up. So maybe my superpower is, grit in that way. But even then, I'll turn around and quit, if the job's too hard and everything. But only because it's the one absolute, you guys. I talk about that. There's only one absolute. That's it. And this is how God speaks to me. All right. So it's saying just like, yes, it's really important to have grit. But if that grit is getting you into a position where you're just banging your head against a wall uselessly with no purpose at all, maybe it's time to admit defeat. All right. And it's if it, like the best way for me to say it is just like, if I want to get through, if I'm going into a destination and I hit a wall and I can't break the wall down, me admitting defeat, that this wall cannot be breached in traditional manners, maybe it's time to look for a door. Or maybe it's time to look for a gate. Maybe it's time to look for a hole that I can crawl through, or whatever. Maybe me attempting to break the wall down isn't going to work. All right. And in that way, is it really admitting defeat, or is it just continuing to evolve, continuing to grow? And so that would be my offer for, the 0.01% who watches that yeah. And to any of my normal supporters or subscribers, thank you for listening to me rant about this. In that case, I offer that's more direct support, where it's just like, you guys are awesome. All right. You probably know exactly what it's like to walk away from group dynamics, or at the very least recognize it and to say, man, I don't jive with this. I don't like this dynamic. And that is okay. You're valid. That's more than valid. And just know that there are people out there and there's groups out there that exist in a different dynamic. But part of this initiation, at least from what I'm gathering, is that we have to be willing to be alone. We have to be okay with being alone. We have to walk away from the toxic groups and then be by ourselves, be independent, to the extent that we can then be a part of this new group dynamic where we're not codependent, where we're not projecting our crap onto other people. And so it takes time. All right. And just be patient with yourself, love yourself, and that even goes for, the other, my my fellow brothers and sisters out there, from the homeless community that I'm talking about. you know I wanted us to go together. I really, really did, you guys. But you made it very clear that you didn't want that, and so I have to walk this alone. And in that case, maybe it had to be this way. It was super validation for me to see that, just like, all right, I really can't take anybody with me. I got to do this alone. And so let that be an example too. When you're tired of that dynamic, all right, when you're tired of, stealing from each other, from lying to each other, from lying to yourself, from stealing from yourself, all right, in a very real way too, you have to do this alone. And it just is this point where it's just, at least for me, it was, where it's just like, I would rather die. All right. I would rather die than spend one more second condoning that, living that, creating that more for myself. And knowing, all right, even having a smidgen of hope that it's possible. All right. And what got me through that, just to say that we don't really die. All right. So if you give up, or you think that taking the easy way out is going to end anything, it doesn't. All right. And I'm here to tell you that it does not end anything. All right. You keep on going no matter what. So this is why it's so important. When you're done with that dynamic, don't check out, man. Check in to yourself, to the truth. All right. To God, whatever you want to call it. So we'll leave it at that. And so this toxic dynamic that I've talked about, like I like to say, it's the world's been upside down, you guys. This social dynamic has been upside down, and I'm flipping it around. All right, I'm living on the flip side. All right. So when I say that in parting, that's what I mean, where it's just like we can live in this healthy group dynamic, but it takes time. All right. It takes patience. It takes some healing. All right. And especially, love for oneself, allowing, if from this language, right, allowing God's love to flow through us, for us. All right. For oneself, because that's how everything's built. As I love myself, as I allow God to love me, then I can be a part of a community that also is the same. All right. That is also allowing God's love to come through us. So there we go. That's the flip side. All right. So peace out. Love within. I'll catch you guys on the flip side as you catch me.